All right, Linus Tech Tips made a graphics card repair video. I think you know what that means. We're gonna watch it and I'm gonna comment on it. So yeah, this is another it's a pretty low effort video, but a video that I really want to be making. And before we start, I have to say a few things. So yes, it's one of those YouTube response videos, but I'm not looking to get into trouble here. I'm not looking to make Linus Tech Tips look bad, and I'm not trying to berate them in any way. I want to give constructive criticism here and offer in form of this video help. Am I thinking that they're gonna watch this video? I don't think so. I don't think Jason Sense ever watched the video I made in response of his repair attempt. Take City did the video that I made in response of his. And yeah, I mean, he watched that because someone in his Discord probably shared it around. Yeah, I'm not really expecting them to watch this. Maybe Alex. I saw him around on some overclocking Discords where this video might end up or something. But yeah, the main reason why I'm making this video is there's something in this video that are not right, and there's some things in this video that I just would like to offer a few more bits of information on. So this is not meant as oh, you did things wrong and you're dumb for doing that. That's not that kind of video. So if you're looking for beef, don't watch this video. I don't like getting into trouble with people. I like to, well, correct information that I think is wrong. So yeah, and I think I should also say that I am not a professional GPU repair technician. I never really planned to be. I just at some point started working on them and watched other people's content on it, and together with my university courses on electronics kind of built myself a base of understanding how this stuff works. I'm far from the best with this, and there's a chance that I'm gonna say something in this video that's wrong. If so, go check the comments or the description of the video. If I myself notice I said something wrong, or if someone in the comments corrects my correction of their video, then I'll pin that or make my own comment or something. So check the description of the comments for any corrections for things that I say in this video, because I might also be saying something wrong, because again, I'm not the best at repairing graphics cards. But still, I do engage with the topic a lot. I'm on a couple Discords that talk about it, and I do it myself. As you can see, I have a couple repair videos, some of them more successful than others. So yeah, I think let's just watch the video and see what they're doing. This is quite a long video, 27 minutes, and yeah, this is probably quite a long video. So go grab some snacks or whatever, or I'll just put it on while you play something. Anyway, let's start.
God. Oh, this is really bad. Oh, this is terrible.
Wait. That's an in-layer. Oh. Yeah, that was an in-layer PCB shot. That's just a
what?
Shot, so.
There's no way this is okay. What? Oh. Why is this on?
I just got 6 GPUs for only $1,700 because they're all dead. Although, by the end of this video, with any luck, a couple of them will be alive. And huge thanks to Origin PC for sponsoring.
He's paying quite a lot for those cards. I mean, sure, those might be the current prices, and they are probably using Canadian dollars, which are worth quite a lot less than a euro. But he kind of paid a lot for those. I remember buying a new RX 570 for 145 euros, and he got a dead 580 for 150. That's a bit too close. Anyway, they're Linus Tech Tips, they have the money.
The GPUs we have here go from boots up but crashes to...
Memory.
I haven't looked at this one yet, so let's have a gander, Brandon. Box has seen better days. Okay, it's just a loose graphics card.
Oh boy. That one's gonna have... Yeah, that one might have shipping damage. Together with whatever fault it used to have.
Excellent. We also have a variety of loose screws.
Yeah, that's so much as shipping damage. You'd be surprised how easy it is to knock off a PCI Express bypass capacitor. I've done it without even noticing, and then like, hey, why is this card only running at 4x? And then noticing, oh, shit.
That's never a good sign. If you want to do what we did and go on ebay.com and just get it for parts GPU, make sure someone else hasn't already had a crack at it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely true. Don't bother with cards that someone already had worked on unless they show you very specifically what they did and you think you can work with that. Do not take a GPU where someone has worked on and you don't exactly know what they did. That is a nightmare. Just absolutely, like, I've gotten cards where they didn't even say that they worked on it, but obviously did because, like, the card was drenched in flux or there were clear markings of someone torching it with a heat gun. And, well, I remember one 580 that I got like that, and that one didn't come back. That one was dead. It became an E-power. That's the end of the card. But yeah, he's absolutely right. Just do not bother with cards that someone worked on already, because if they're selling the card, they obviously didn't fix it. So either it's something that's unfixable and you shouldn't attempt to fix it either, or they are not a good GPU technician, and that means that they likely fucked up the card.
Like this one right here, it looks pretty decent, and as far as I can tell from the description, the old owner didn't really put a whole lot of effort into trying to fix it.
What did it say? I'm setting. Please read carefully. It will boot into BIOS, and it only worked once. In many tried with the drivers. Okay, the base. I understand this. So please keep in mind that most of the times are not working. And it will stop working and shut down right away as soon as setting up the entire entering my system. That sounds like so this sounds like crash on driver install. And crash on driver install means dead GPU or dead memory. Or sometimes well, let's just see what they diagnose.
As for like this one, it's clearly...
Ooh, a 980 Ti, that one's... Yeah, where are the power plugs? Where the hell are the power... Oh my god, someone worked on this. So, I see that EVGA is a light protector right there. So this is an EVGA 980 Ti. EVGA 980 Ti's have a reputation. Not a good one, because they like to blow up this power stage right here. That one. Sometimes it's this one, and I've also seen this one here, but usually it's this one. They like to blow that up because the reference PCB for the 780, 780 Ti, 980 Ti, and all their Titan counterparts is just not good. And EVGA used a very bad heatsink for the VRM, which made it overheat and caused those many failures. Because like this is this side of the card is closest to the PCI Express slot, and this power stage is like wedged right in between all the other power stages. So this one's gonna run the hottest. So this is the one that fails most of the time. There's a very high chance that this 980 Ti, like, I mean, I have no idea why the power plugs are missing here. Maybe there's a different issue. Like maybe someone just worked on this and messed it up in a different way. But like, if you get a reference 980 Ti, especially an EVGA one, it's probably a blown up power stage.
Already been used for a parts card. If we get this guy back, I will be shocked. 980 Ti for $100 and a couple bucks?
That's way too much for a dead 980 Ti.
Try. First step when you have a dead GPU is to verify that it's dead. In order to do that, we have our test bench here from Origin. It's their Millennium 5000T, and it is certifiably a good one. I guess we should probably make sure this works first, Brandon.
Oh.
Fancy. So in here we have all of the best stuff. So 12900K 3080 Ti, good looking board from MSI, and a peel. Wow. Yeah, that was a really good peel, I have to say. One thing that's super cool about these PCs is that even though it, comes with a warranty, you can swap out the parts and you still maintain that warranty. I don't know if they intended you to put something like this in it, but we're gonna test it out. Well, the rest of these GPUs we just got from eBay. This one right here is Jono's.
Yep.
So what's wrong with it?
It would kind of like disconnect, like the motor would just disconnect randomly. It'll do that in a series, and it'll stop, and it'll do it in the series again. So it would like happen like every couple of hours. So I'm kind of hoping you can fix it. Oh, see.
That sounds like an HDMI cable issue. Or like maybe like monitor disconnecting. I don't think I've ever seen an issue like that. Not one where like it comes back. If like the monitor like loses image and it doesn't come back, that's something that I've seen happening, but not like how he's describing that, like comes back and then goes away again and comes back. I think he just has a dead display cable.
At least what's wrong with it.
That sounds very hard to diagnose.
I don't know.
Also, I've just been running Firmark on this PC and it's looking great. GPU's at 70 degrees, everything's kind of in line with what I would expect. Yeah, the memory's kind of hot, it's at 90.
Can we see? Yeah, that's like it's running Firmark and it's at 0.74 volts. Can we see the clock? Yeah, it's at 1400 megahertz. Like, is power consumption on here? Okay, so it is consuming like 350 watts. So it is like, I guess, so I guess for the heat part it's right, but I've made a video about this. That and that, like Firmark is good for generating heat and literally nothing else. Because, yeah, like those voltages and those clocks, like you're never gonna run that in any daily scenario.
4 degrees, but that's not too crazy. NVIDIA says you can do 120, so that's a good baseline to go off of. Now let's check Jono's in. I'm sorry, Origin. You did actually do quite a nice little job of cable managing here, and I'm gonna have to ruin it. We have loads of power easily available though. Thank you for running it like that, Origin. I don't know, Brandon. You say it's like their system builder, but I've seen some pretty shoddy stuff from system builders.
That's fair. But not Origin.
Yeah, not Origin. I think step one for this guy is going to be just to give it a little clean. One thing to note when blowing compressed air, make sure that it doesn't spin your fans. It can just overload the motor and turn your fan into a generator. Not great. There are apparently like diodes and stuff in this that should prevent it from killing your stuff, but either way, just don't let them spin.
I mean, fine, you gotta clean the fan blades too, but like just take the shroud off. Or like just take the heatsink off, like clean the board and then clean the heatsink as its own thing. Because like you're gonna need to clean the board anyway. You're gonna have to take the heatsink off anyway. So, well, I get the card doesn't even look that dirty to begin with. But yeah.
Wow, that helped a lot. Brand new. If your GPU seems to be dying, try out the easy stuff first. Make sure your drivers are up to date and check if your temps are okay. So we're just going to be doing a quick driver install here, and then we're going into Hardware Info 64. It's a free program, just install it, check your stuff. Run something like maybe a Firmark or something, just any game that you run.
Firmark's just for power.
See if anything in...
So, as I already said, like Firmark is good for generating a lot of power. So if you're gonna test your temperatures, that's fine. If you wanna test if you have the right clock speeds or voltages, don't. Also, it's not a stability test. If you want to test for stability, don't use Firmark. It literally just makes your card generate a lot of heat. That's what it does. It doesn't stress the card in any real way. Use something like 3D Mark or Unigine superposition for like testing your clock stability and stuff. For temperatures, Thermark is fine, but for everything else, use like 3D Mark.
And your GPU temperature starts looking
Headway info
weird.
bit is good though.
So temperatures that you're looking for, GPU shouldn't be over about 80, and memory is normally fine if it's around 100, 120 at the highest. What you really want to look for though is that your performance isn't just tanking. So we have something like Thermark here, we can run it, and we'll see that at the start we're getting 225 FPS. It's going to go down a little bit at first as the turbo runs out, but it shouldn't like become half of that or just completely fall off a cliff. Well, I have some bad news for John.
I mean, I guess that's technically true. You don't want that happening, but I mean, the only way that's gonna happen if like something is thermal throttling, and you can just see that by looking at the temps. Don't have to measure FPS for that. I'm just like, is there a way? Well, I guess if your power monitoring is like wrong in some way, but that's like a very rare thing that's very hard to diagnose.
Jono. He thought that the temps might have been the problem here, and they aren't. I didn't think it would be. We could leave this for longer, but it's at 50 degrees right now. Like, there's clearly nothing wrong with the GPU temps. One thing that people almost never do with their GPUs is update the firmware on it, even though it can fix things like what Jono's been seeing. They might have...
Okay, so BIOS, flashing a newer BIOS on your card, I mean, sure, do it. I see a lot of people saying that you can fix dead graphics cards by flashing BIOSes on them. I have, unless someone screwed with the BIOS first and messed it up, I've never seen a BIOS flash fix a card. Like, if someone already messed with the BIOS, then sure. But if it still has the same BIOS that it had out of the box, flashing that BIOS, I've never seen that fix a card. Because, like, yeah, sure, BIOS chips die, and bit rot is a thing, but I don't think I've seen a single occurrence where the BIOS went bad without someone messing with it.
Patched it like a year ago, and he's just never updated it.
We've done everything easy on Jono's GPU, so drivers, firmware, temps are looking good. I can't get it to crash, so that's kind of where we're at with that right now.
Yeah, just
what I'm
that
doing is
display
just
cable.
running 3D Mark with a GoPro pointed at the screen to see if it does crash eventually. There's so many things that could have been causing his problems, I don't even know where to start. Like, I personally had a problem that was similar to that a while ago, and updating my monitor's firmware fixed it, so like, there's too many variables at this point until we see it actually crash and can go through the logs. While it runs though, we're going to test out the rest of these GPUs to make sure that they're safe to put in our system and just look for anything obvious. So first thing, we're just...
Wait, is he about to put those cards into his system without checking for shorts?
gonna check for shorts.
Oh no, okay, he's checking for shorts.
It's highly unlikely that there will be shorts, but if
That famous last words. Very famous last words.
there is, and you plug it into your computer, you might blow up your power supply. So
Or your graphics card. Or like, not just blow up, just like straight up cause a fire. Like, if you have an in-layer... I have a card. I might do an end segment to this video where I show off some cards that I have. I have a box of dead cards. I have a 780 Ti that has a short from vCore to ground. So that one you can turn on and it won't trip the power supply because technically nothing's wrong. Like, vCore is supposed to go to ground, but through the GPU, not through a short circuit. But the card can't tell the difference because both is very low resistance. So that card straight up just like catches on fire if you turn it on. So yeah, check for shorts.
it's cheap and easy insurance. Got our multimeter here, it'll go bing, if there's a short.
You can use continuity mode for the power inputs, like your 12 volt and your 3.3 volt input. You can use continuity or beep mode for that. Do not use it for anything else. If you measure the resistance of your VRM outputs, it will always beep because the outputs of your VRM are like for a GPU, it's like basically 100 milliohms. For memory, it's like 100 ohms. That's low enough for the multimeter to beep. It will beep even if it's perfectly fine. Only use beep mode for your power inputs. Not it. For anything else, just measure the actual resistance and compare with other people.
Like that. And we're just going to go across these pins. It's going to be something like this. Thank you, Gamers Nexus. So
Yep, very useful.
These guys are shorted to those ones, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
That one's a sense pin, it's fine. It's the sort of thing where if your power connectors are shorted, your GPU's probably never gonna come back.
No. I fix cards like that. I mean, a short circuit on the input is... most short circuits on the inputs I see is actually just a 12 volt to V-core short circuit, which is probably what their 980 Ti has, if that power stage is actually blown up. That's easy to fix, you just replace the power stage if it hasn't burnt a hole into the PCB. Anything else, like I've had a 680 that had an input capacitor that was short. I used voltage injection to find it, removed it, now the card works. Like, short circuits on the inputs are, as long as there's no like hole burnt into the PCB, it's a pretty easy fix if you know what you're doing. And even if there's a hole in the PCB, just like watch the first 290X video I made, even if there's a hole in the PCB, you can fix the card. Like, yeah, you need quite some knowledge about what you're doing, and it's probably outside of what Alex and Linus Tech Tips can do, but you can definitely fix those cards. Just like if you can't do it yourself, bring it to a repair shop. They can very likely bring it back. Like, shorted inputs is not a death sentence. That's quite the opposite. Like, because that's immediately you have your problem. Now you just need to fix it. Like, there's a lot of other things, like artifacting or crashing on driver install. That could be many, many things. Like, it could be literally any memory chip. It could be the GPU. But that's about it. But, like, there's a lot of memory chips on a card. So, yeah. Oh, and sometimes it's also broken capacitors that cause instability if you don't have enough extra capacitance that you can't take one dead cap. It does happen on some cheaper cards.
It's done, but when you're getting it off eBay, you might as well check. Yeah, so none of these are gonna blow up our power supply. Super easy, probably don't have to do it, but I would recommend doing it if you have a multimeter, because cheap, easy insurance. Oh, shut up. Now what I wanna do is just take these apart, put them back together, see if there's anything obvious. And I find that a lot of the time, just disassembling and reassembling stuff that's dead is the easiest way to fix it. You won't know why you fixed it, but it just does.
I mean, I have quote-unquote fixed more cards by just taking them apart and cleaning. Cleaning's the important part, cleaning them, than I have any right to. There are definitely cards that are just like dirty, like a bit of debris that happens to be slightly conductive, bridges two contacts, and that causes something to error out and not start up. That does totally happen. I've had like an HD 7850 that I cleaned and it worked again. I had a 580 that I cleaned and it worked again, and probably also a couple other cards. It does happen. But like it has happened quite a lot for me, but from what I'm hearing from other people, I'm just pretty lucky with that. It does happen, but it's kind of rare. So maybe Alex also just got lucky a couple times.
First one we're going to look at is this RX 580, and we paid $150 for it. What do you think the chances are this was mined on, David?
100%.
100%, yeah, probably. One thing that I do like about this card is that there is still a sticker on the back. So
those are very useful. If someone puts a picture of the, like, if you know a card is supposed to have a warranty sticker, look if it still has it. Because if it's still on there, that's your proof that no one messed with the card. Then again, I have actually seen people who put on fake warranty stickers. And we found it out because we saw a card that has like a certain warranty sticker, and then we found one for sale as broken that had a different warranty sticker on it. And then we saw that that seller puts the same kind of warranty sticker on all their cards, even cards that are not supposed to have a warranty sticker at all. So beware, some people do actually put fake warranty stickers onto cards that they failed to repair. which might be illegal. I don't know. It's certainly scummy, but yeah. Yeah. I'm not saying that you're very likely going to encounter a fake one. So if there are some fake ones, but if you encounter one that has this, you can fairly safely assume that the card was not messed with.
Chances are it hasn't been taken apart and no one's really taken a look into what's gone wrong with it. This one smells kind of weird. Like, you know how there's those thrift shops that get cool stuff in?
Oh yeah.
Then there's those ones that just like someone's nan died and her whole house is there.
Oh no.
This one smells like that.
Probably because it was mined on, just like in a back room.
This might be completely unnecessary. It might just work. It's so easy to take it apart.
If it was
and
mined
just
on
have
it,
a look.
there's a chance
There
that it
we
just
go.
has a fucked mining
This
bias
card,
on
it
it.
looks fine.
Oh, isn't that the one that has the power stages blow up? Those
There
look
is
like,
just some
or was that the 4-phase version? Those power stages look pretty small. That might be the one that likes to blow up.
crud on it. There's
Like, those are pretty small. Usually power stages are like the size of that capacitor, but these are like the size of those capacitors. So, I don't know. There's some card, some 580, like at least this one has fuses. You can see the fuses right there, and there's one for the PCIe. So even if a power stage blew up, the fuses would save the card from getting a hole burnt into it. Which is nice. Having fuses on your card is like definitely very, very good. And sadly Asus stopped doing that, but hey, if you buy an Asus card and it has a crater in it, your own fault. Yeah, like I have seen a card like this that likes to blow up. I don't know if it was this one or if there's like a stripped down version of this that only has 4 VCore phases instead of 6. But these power stages look like, just because they're pretty small, they might be the ones that blow up. So just because a power stage is dead doesn't always mean that it is burned, because this one has fuses. Like, as soon as the power stage died, one of those fuses probably fused. So no more power went into that. But let's see if this one's actually dead. Like, because it said mining and they said it smells weird, which probably indicates that this one was like in a shed or something, or in someone's back room. There's a chance that this just has a mining BIOS on it that's just like messed up. Like someone messed up BIOS flashing this with like a mining BIOS or something.
There's like a little bit of corrosion in some spots. That's kind of what I like to see, because that's the sort of card where if you just give it a clean, it might just come back. Should we give it a little wash?
Hell yeah.
Just using a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and a toothbrush. Those
Yep,
spots
that's
that are
what I
kind of
do.
gnarly, just
I mean, yeah.
last little bit for this 580. If I was going to do this properly, I would also replace the thermal pads, but they seem like they're
Nah,
fine.
you don't need to.
And if it
As long as
actually
they don't
works
tear, you
later,
don't
maybe
need
I'll
to.
replace them. This card's good to put in the system, but I just want to keep running Jono's 2080 Ti to see if it eventually crashes. It is entirely possible that we fixed it when we just blew all of the crap out of it and put it in a case with good airflow.
Does happen
So
once,
it might have
yeah.
just been thermal throttling before. It's so hard to say. Our next card is this GeForce GTX 1080.
Oh, a 1080 FTW. So this is just like the 980 Ti. 1080 FTWs and like 1070 FTWs too, I think. Like the ones that have like this bigger PCB that like the EVGA like has reference PCB cards, and this is like a custom PCB. And these ones like to melt down. I think no one's ever really disclosed what specific part it is, but basically the story for this card is EVGA was supplied with some faulty components, so they would work for a while, but they would ultimately die, and that would cause a short circuit in the vCore VRM. Either a power stage went short or something else went short, like maybe a capacitor burned, or maybe the power stage itself burned, or maybe like the MOSFET drivers were faulty and caused the power stage to burn by like effectively shorting it. There's many ways how this could go wrong, but the one thing that is known about these is that the vCore VRM on these likes to fail. And a lot of them have craters in them because like people use cheap power supplies and they don't trip correctly. And as far as I know, this doesn't have fuses. So if you have a cheap power supply that doesn't trip correctly, you're gonna have a crater in your card. So let's see what their card has.
Now I'm a little bit scared about this one because I had the exact same card in my system, and these early ones from EVGA had a bit of a bad habit of kind of like exploding.
Yep, even he knows.
There's just something wrong with the capacitors. Whatever, you updated the firmware, it was totally fine.
No. I mean, EVGA did the thing where like you could like buy extra thermal pads from it and like cool the VRM better, and that firmware update he's talking about probably like reduced how aggressively it's boosting voltage or whatever, which like puts the VRM under less stress, which extends the lifespan of those faulty components, but it still has faulty components. That's a hardware issue. You can't fix that with software. You can delay the problem or you can't fix it.
Whoever owned this might have not, and it might have just killed itself. Let's take it apart though, give it a little clean, and then it should be good to put in this system. This one's also just
They did show an in-layer PCB shot in the beginning part of the video. I wouldn't be surprised if it's this card.
pretty grot filled. Like, look, I think those are supposed to be holes, but it's just like
Oh, that's a lot of grime.
solid.
Jesus.
I really miss the days of the capacitor plague. Used to be that something was
How does the backplate look like that, but then the rest of the card is like basically clean? How do you do that?
dead. You could just take a look at it. One of these guys would be bulging, replace it. It's all good. Now it's so much more difficult. Even if
I mean, yeah, that's quite easy. Then again, if you design a system that fails when you just have one capacitor die, it's a pretty bad design. It should be able to, like, if any capacitor on your PCB should be able to die without the component, like without the card stopping to work. Like, you should have enough capacitors so that if one dies, it still should keep working.
capacitor goes, it's like one of these stupid little things, and they're super hard to deal with. That really looks like someone spilled a bunch of water on it.
Well, stick it in.
Is that water? Or is that just... Okay, that looks like water. Then the rest, like these tiny outlines, that's probably just silicone oil from the thermal pads. Especially the higher end ones, I think, are like kind of squishy, and they have silicone oil leak out of them over time. That's why when you take like VRM heatsinks off of motherboards and graphics cards, they usually look like kind of wet. That's like the silicone oil that comes out of the thermal pads as they're being compressed by the heatsink. So it sometimes looks like it's wet. It looks like it's wet, but it's not. But this, and then also that looks kind of suspicious. That's a bit too much to be just silicone. Or that might actually be like water or some other liquid.
Well, stick it in some rice, I say.
Yep, sticker and some rice.
Just clean it.
That's actually really
Yeah, just do
satisfying in
that.
a weird way.
Yeah, I really have been loving this. Oh, I am a bit scared for this one though. Oh, in this part you can really see just whatever was spilled
Okay, yeah,
on
it's
this. It's
liquid
like all
damage.
sticky up here collecting
yeah,
dust. It's
soft-
even kind of
soft
wet
drink.
like right there still. Mmm, tasty.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well, I
someone
think I
spilled
found
their
what's
drink on
dead with this GPU. And if we just take a look, yeah, that's f***ed. Now, how rough is this going to be to fix? This is a
Wait,
small
does this have water damage and a molten down V-core? Wait, what?
Phillips.
Did show?
And-
Oh, okay. So it did melt down, but it's not the V-core VRM. That's probably a power balancing MOSFET. Like Nvidia introduced these in like the 700 series, I think. Like basically that's how Nvidia like keeps power balancing their inputs. So like the card can switch some certain phases in its V-core VRM from one connector to another connector. Like let's say you have a 6-pin and an 8-pin, and the 8-pin is drawing like a bit too much power and the 6-pin isn't pulling that much power. You can use one of these to switch one or two V-core phases over to the 6-pin, so that extra load from the 8-pin goes to the 6-pin and both are running within spec again. So as far as I know, that these are used for that, for like switching the 12-volt power planes so that it can power balance the inputs to be like exactly within spec. These are also used to melt down just by themselves. I've seen quite a lot of these, especially the early ones on like 700 series cards that just like randomly melt down. You don't need to spill your drink on that for that to happen. But since we've seen water damage, I'm pretty sure that that's probably shorted and died. And also, like, this one really burned, did it? Like, do you see how, like, this trace is, like, lifting off the PCB? That's not a good sign. Also, like, this looks like the solder mask burnt away. Oh, and also here we have a big blob of solder. These solder blobs are very useful for finding dead stuff, by the way. Like, I think I had that on the 780 Ti MSI that I ended up repairing. Because that one had what I think has happened to their 980 Ti. We'll see once we get to that. I had that 780 Ti and it had a Diamos. Like, I should be saying Diamos. I've been saying Power Stage in this video, but I should be saying Diamos. On the 780 Ti and the 980 Ti, those are just Diamoses. They're not Power Stages. You need a bit of extra functionality to be called a Power Stage. Anyway, it had one of the V-Core Diamoses melt down, but it didn't, like, burn like this. It was just dead, but it looked fine. However, it had these things on the side because, like, when they melt down, you might not see it, like, they melt down internally, but you don't see it on the outside. But it still got hot enough so that, like, the solder that's under it, like, it's soldered to the board, that, like, that heats up so much that some of it gets, like, squished out the side, and you see, like, these little solder balls on the side of the dead Diamos. And I'm pretty sure I did see that on the 780 Ti. And then I pulled that Diamos and replaced it with a different one that I pulled from a 770. And now the card works. Like, all the phases on, like, the card works without that Diamos, but, like, since it's a reference card, so even with all the phases working, it's still pretty weak. So I replaced it with a known good one from a 770 that had a different problem. It wasn't working anymore. But yeah, that is, I mean, since it's just for power balancing the inputs, you could do a super jank repair where you just jump it together, which just, like, share the load of whatever phases are connected to this to, like, all the inputs, which can lead to your inputs running out of spec. The spec is very conservative for power inputs, so you should be fine, but it's not a proper repair. A proper repair would just be like, these three MOSFETs are probably the exact same spec. Just, like, read the number off of that, buy another one, replace this, like, maybe clean up the traces a bit, replace the MOSFET, and then you're good to go.
And if we look right here, it looks like a really large Philips when you put it against this chip. But yeah, I am very confident that this is what is wrong with this GPU. Now, can we get another one of these chips? I'm not sure, but there is one right here, and we might have something that's dead around that has one of those. I don't know. So I found what's wrong with this. Do you want to have a little look?
Someone, like, just extinguish a cigarette on top of that IC.
Kind of looks like
Oh, there's
it.
also, like, a massive solder ball bridging a resistor.
Yeah, he also knows about it.
Do you think that's the culprit, or do you think someone tried to fix it?
She's had some work done.
The stickers were
wouldn't say
still
that.
on the GPU, so no one could have had.
Like, given how the water
Like, I
damage
don't think
looked,
anyone took it apart.
This was worked on.
What the heck's attack?
Like, he doesn't know about the solder ball thing that I've done.
This is just disintegrating. It possibly
Yeah, you can,
caused,
like, see how this is, like, a tier, like, it swished out of here, and then, like, collided with that resistor, and then, like, froze in place like this when it cooled down. He might take this as someone worked on this, but I'm pretty sure that's just from the MOSFET melting down, especially because it's, like, melting down, like, towards this corner here. So, yeah.
like a short, then sent whatever this is. Looks like a MOSFET. I'm gonna say it's a MOSFET.
It's a
Yeah,
MOSFET.
it's
I
probably
think
it's dead.
a MOSFET.
It's dead.
Yeah, it's very dead.
Oh yeah, you might be able to get the IC markings off the not dead guy.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Oh, and you bought it?
I haven't bought it yet.
Okay. If it failed short, then, like, replacing it doesn't matter, right? Because it's
Yeah.
already shorted. Duting
If
is bad.
it's-
Yeah, this is one bucket of short, mate.
I mean, depends on how the system, on how the input system works. If like, just connect the input if is its default state, then yeah. If do not connect the input as its default state, then no, it's not supposed to be shorted.
Oh, geez.
Have you tried running it?
I have not. I'm going to turn off this benchmark
I
of
wouldn't
Jono's
run
card.
this
It's been
card
running
with
for...
that thing on it. I would like at least remove it and try to run it, because it might have been in parallel with that other MOSFET.
3 hours straight with a stress test and it hasn't failed yet. So I think it's safe to say it's fine, or the problem was with Jono's system. That exploded MOSFET that we saw is shorted. So even if we replace it, it's effectively doing what it's going to do when it's on anyway.
Well, one of the tests that we wanted to do was, what if we just shorted it and see if the card boots up? We don't have to take it off to test that because it's already shorted. If you want it to work properly as an actual like load switch, we would replace it so that if it needs to turn off, it can.
Yeah, the worst thing that could happen has already happened.
I think that's a power supply trip, man.
Yeah, that sounded like a power supply trip to me.
That still smells fine. Send it again.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Oh?
Wait, how did it trip? How did it? Did they like when they? Okay. So what might have just happened here is they turned it on. There was a short somewhere, and like all that power rushing into it, like caused the short, and the power supply detected the short, and like it's an RM850X. I own myself an RM750X, and I know that one has really good short circuit protection, so this one probably does too. They might have just blown up that short circuit so that it doesn't exist anymore with that one trip. It's like even if the power supply trips instantly, there's still power going into that, and that MOSFET is pretty small. It doesn't need that much power to heat it up. They might have just literally disintegrated that MOSFET, and now the short is gone and the card works again. Unless they kind of were talking like the MOSFET being like closed is supposed to be the default state, which might be, but I haven't looked at the documentation for NVIDIA's input power system. I just know how it works on a theory from listening to other people.
Oh.
Maybe you just needed the magical
seems
hands.
to work now.
Do we have an output?
No.
Oh. Well,
It still is post-coding, so like...
Yeah, it's probably not
maybe
getting
that's
power to where it's supposed to be. Like that's a power input MOSFET. So if they really just blew up that short circuit, it's no longer getting power to where it's like not all the VCore phases are getting power anymore. The controller's probably detecting that, and it's going like, yep, something's weird, shut down.
hasn't posted yet.
I feel like we're in Windows right now.
And so wait, if we're in Windows, then
Oh, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
then we
Device
can,
manager?
then we can do stuff. Yeah. No,
Nothing.
it's gone.
Not even detected? I mean, yeah, it makes sense if the card doesn't work. If copy RAM doesn't work.
Knowing what PMOSFETs do, I would assume that it would have to be closed for the graphics card to work.
Yeah.
So it is closed permanently, not by choice. So yeah, no, I think there might be something else wrong. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is see if we get core voltage. This is
I might be about to say something very controversial. I've only ever worked with N-channel MOSFETs. I know P-channel MOSFETs exist, and that might be a P-channel MOSFET, and if I get this correctly, P-channel MOSFETs are closed by normal, like by nature, and N-channel MOSFETs are open by nature. So if I'm getting this right, then that's supposed to be closed. If they just blew it up, then yeah, the card doesn't work because it's not closed anymore. But if they didn't, and the trip just happened because of something, then yeah, I don't know.
This is a jank way to do it. There's no AC, it's all DC, it's all low voltage. One of the easiest ways to do it is probably the end of one of these capacitors. Never mind. I'm getting negative 12 volts because I got it the wrong way around. But there you go, 12 volts. Okay, we have voltage.
I mean, they're measuring the voltages. That's like
Well, that means that
it works, so we know that everything works. But yeah, they're checking the
power
voltages,
supplies work.
which is a good step. You're supposed to do that to check like if all the rates work.
Okay.
Like at that stage, they would have found out, oh, the core, like if the like now we know the card works, but like if they wouldn't be getting all the power input to their vCore and the vCore shuts down, they would have noticed now because their core voltage would be missing.
Wait, what?
We're getting core voltage.
It's working.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's working.
By the way, don't laugh at them for not noticing. I've done that myself. Or maybe just laugh at them and me for doing that. I've had it with a motherboard that was showing up like a debug LED for like, oh, your graphics card is not working. And I was just like power cycling the thing with like, my card is working, what's wrong with you? Not noticing that that LED was just on for no reason because my monitor was like showing an image.
Like we got
GTX
core,
1080
we
is
got
working.
core voltage, man. It works, but I have no idea what we did to make it work. And you know what? We call that like
this card's
if
just
it.
very
If
So
it
we
weird.
removed the back plate. Although, wait, there might have been some stuff in there. There was some liquid.
Oh,
yeah,
that
and
totally
we
makes
tried
sense.
to replace.
If there's something on the backplate that shorts out a capacitor or something, that would detect the short. And then either the power supply trips because it detects the short, or the controller on the VRM detects, oh, there's something short and doesn't turn on.
These? Yeah, because those touch the caps, right?
Yeah,
Is this
those touch
game?
the caps.
Can you do a stress test and do we have a thermal camera to see if this actually gets warm?
I can get a
Probably
thermal camera.
not. Backplates are usually not neat. Oh,
Oh,
Maybe it's not so worky.
she
the
picks
card
you
is
up,
very
just puts
weird.
it down again.
It's less dead than before, at least. So we can potentially take off the back plate, look at it with like a thermal camera or something, and see if we can find out some stuff.
I'm pretty sure. So, what I would do to that card is clean it properly, like give it a full proper clean, then replace that MOSFET, and then like look if there's anything else weird on the PCB, and if there isn't, I'm pretty sure the card would just work.
That's an after lunch problem. I'm disappointed. I'm probably gonna do most of it off camera. We're gonna just move on, see if like, where did that 580 go? See if this 580 after we cleaned it just works now. We have lights. We have fans.
Oh, not
Interesting.
it.
I'm suspicious that
why
it's
would
gonna
it turn
keep doing
off?
this. One thing that's interesting about this card is it has a
Why
button.
would the card make the system turn off? I've never seen that. That's weird. Like, it runs for a bit and then turns off. Like, that's the weird part.
BIOS switch on it. So,
Yeah, mining BIOS. If it, yeah.
Oh,
It's a
wow.
mining BIOS.
okay, so this is, I didn't want,
That's why BIOS switches should be standard on everything. That right there. Because people keep messing with the BIOSes, messing them up, and you can just flip the switch and go to your backup, then it works.
to say what I thought might have happened because it's so stupid, but I was a bit suspicious that there might have just been a mining BIOS on
Yep.
this with no video output, and you just
Or
switch
just
it
a
over
messed
to a
up
normal
flash.
gaming BIOS and it just boots up.
Yeah.
Because we did switch from NVIDIA to AMD, I'm
So that's
just,
like the one kind of BIOS issue that actually can fix your card. If someone messed with the BIOS before, you can unmess the BIOS and then the card works. What's not gonna work is if the BIOS hasn't been altered in any way and you reflash it, then it's not gonna work.
running DDU, getting NVIDIA's drivers off there, and then this might work.
Using DDU is a
That'd
good
be
way
crazy.
to avoid
150
software
bucks for a
weirdness.
580. Can you believe it, David?
That's what it should cost.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
that's
what it should cost. We'll let it run through,
That's right.
but I think she's good. It would be so embarrassing to
card's
put up
gonna
a
work now, it's
video on
just
fixing GPUs and not fix one. Well, did we actually just...
I would actually call that a fix. Like, not a repair, but I would call it a fix. Not a fix of the graphics card, but a fix of whatever minus this was, and like the minus stupidity, a fix of that, not the fix of the card, but still. Like, that's a legit fix, I would say.
fix this thing with the flick of a switch? Maybe. Hopefully it's not like that stupid 1080. Yeah, we'll leave it running for a little bit. Let's see what the next one is. Which one do you want to do? Let's do this one.
What is that?
Oh, an OEM
Oh,
card.
this one's bad. So this one's... This is a 5700
How do you install my OEM
XT.
card?
Beautiful card.
Yeah, it's
Not
beautiful.
great things have happened to this one, and someone's
what
already
did
had
they
a
do?
crack at fixing it. We need to come under the
Oh
microscope.
no! Oh no! No! Someone worked on this. No.
Show you what's on the go here. You probably can't see it, but on this PCIe trace, there's
Oh wait, actually, that's super easy. It's also the last lane. That, if nothing, like if that's the only thing wrong with the card, this one will just work. It's just gonna run at 8x, not 16x. Like, so it has a missing bypass capacitor on PCIe here, and that one like looks like it has a solder ball on it. So maybe that's the part that was worked on. But like, the card would just work at 8. So, like, that's what I've been talking about before, like how you can like flick these off on accident really easily, which is probably what happened here. And how I've been like running cards and like been scratching my head at like, why is it only running at this many lanes and not the full 16? So you can actually just use the card it would just automatically determine that, oh, the like lane 9 to 16 are unusable. I'm just going to use 8 lanes, or only 4 or 2 or 1, depending on where your missing bypass capacitor is. So that is not going to make the card not work. At least on NVIDIA. Maybe AMD cards are weird in that way, but I have several NVIDIA cards with missing bypass capacitors, and they work just fine. Just like not with all the PCI Express lanes, like they run at like 8x or 4x, like depending on where the cap is missing. It runs at however many lanes are okay. So that one's, like, first off, that's really easy to fix, just like solder on a new capacitor. And it shouldn't even make the card not work if AMD cards work the same as NVIDIA. I haven't had an AMD card with a missing bypass capacitor yet.
The little capacitor that's missing right there. Also, it's all burned to heck up here. Now, there's kind of two things that could have happened.
How's it burned? Is like a component burnt, or is that an in-layer PCB short? If it's an in-layer PCB short, that's a rip, because that's where the memory chip is. Like an in-layer PCB short at the VRM, yeah, you can like drill a hole and fix the card, but if it's there at where the memory traces are, that's a rip, that's a no fix.
This cap might have fallen off, card died, and whoever tried to repair it, because someone's clearly tried to repair this, was a big dum-dum and put their soldering iron right here and burned it. That's kind of best case scenario. Yeah, other option, this memory chip like destroyed itself, and in the process...
Memory chips do go short, but they don't usually burn anything. Like, you can swap out memory chips. It's hard. Like, it's something that I can't do, for example, but you can do it. Like, give it to a certified, like, give it to a proper technician. They're gonna swap out your memory chip just fine.
Blew up this cap. If that happened...
Wait, no, memory chips going short is not gonna blow PCI bypass caps. No, that doesn't make sense.
And she's dead, never coming back. So in the microscope, you're able to see it. It looks like that this might have just...
Yeah, okay, so the lower pad is like still half there, but the upper one is just gone. Which, I mean, looks like someone realized that and like scratched off the solder mask here and then like tried to do trace rewiring. Just like take the trace, put it here, and then it just like kind of failed to solder on a capacitor. And like, yeah, that one was totally messed with. It's like, well, crooked and too much solder. Well, like then again, the card should just work at 8x without this. Like you don't like. Pretty sure 5700 XT doesn't even need like full 16x bandwidth. I'm pretty sure it will like be just fine at 8x bandwidth. Also, is that a crack? If that's a hair, that's fine. If that's a crack, that's a problem, because it happens a lot on like 3090s because they're very heavy. A lot of cards like have their PCB crack in this area. And all of those are like basically non-fixable because there's like internal PCB traces that like crack, and that's a rip. So I hope that's not a crack, because that would be very unfortunate. That's not fixable if that's a crack.
It's completely blown itself off, although more likely someone scratched this off trying to repair it. It's got a big old ball of solder right there. That's definitely not helping anything. That also might have been this cap blew up, and in trying to repair it, they ended up just screwing up this one. You can also see some solder on this trace up here where they presumably tried to, you know, add some solder to the trace and bridge it or whatever. Now, what you might think that you'd want to do is just attach like a wire there, and add a cap.
That's how they do it.
But the problem is that PCIe traces are length matched and very...
Okay. Yeah, he's right. Technically, that's an issue. But I've seen do just what he just described and be fine. Like, I've resoldered bypass capacitors. I haven't rewired a trace yet, but I have seen people who have done that. And for those people, the card worked correctly. So the spec might be like, oh, you can't do that, but then it still works still. Because like usually specs are like very, very conservative. So you can like go out of spec by a surprising amount for a lot of things, and it still works.
Very fiddly, basically. This capacitor being gone is a huge problem because there are 2 traces on each one of these pins. And those need to be the same length within, I looked it up and I think for Gen 3, it's like 5,000ths of an inch or something stupid like that.
Yeah, that's the conservative spec, because you're not doing that with a trace rewiring by hand. Like I have seen people like rewire their traces and it's been fine. So like the spec might be calling for that, for like, oh yeah, we need to like have it reliable, but you just attempt it, just try it. I haven't done it myself, so I can't like verify that it works, but I have seen people do it and they said it was fine. And I tend to believe them.
It's because the signal is switching so incredibly fast that if one of them takes longer than the other, the whole thing just kind of falls apart. I'd like to say that I have a good fix for this, but I have a really dumb fix for this that might work. Well, it was a success. This 580 seems to be working great.
No, it's a 580.
It's pretty much right on what we'd expect for a 3D Mark score. This card has 16 PCIe lanes, and the very last one is the one that's blown up.
Yeah, just
If we just put it in an 8X slot and don't
you don't
use...
even need an 8X slot, just put it into the 16X slot. It will see by itself that those lanes are non-functional. Just put it in a normal slot. It will reduce the lane count to whatever it can support.
These ones. Maybe it'll work.
Let's try it.
Yeah, it will work.
Well,
if
this
that's
slot
the
right
only
here
issue. Yeah,
is
it will.
8X. As you can see, there's only pins up to there. Nothing at all. It doesn't even know that there's something in there. Like,
Okay.
we're just in Windows. Fans haven't spun. Cards, yeah.
Yeah, it probably has a different issue then. Might actually be, well, actually, so they said it doesn't detect, which I understand as motherboard postcode says. No, actually, they went to Windows. They just plugged into the iGPU and they were in Windows. So it does post. It might just not be detecting the card, but it doesn't like get stuck on like a postcode where it like, oh, GPU, something weird is plugged in. So it could be that the card's not detected, or something else on the card, like that burn damage at the memory. It could be that the card's not detected because of the PCIe thing. Like again, AMD cards might work a bit differently, but I don't think they do. But there's something else with this card. Kind of sad.
I think we're gonna just call this one a loss for now. I'll come back to it later and maybe
You
have
have to
another look,
diagnose
but
that one.
this one's bad vibes.
Yeah.
1080 Ti,
gonna be a hot
980
fix.
Ti.
980.
Oh,
Afraid
the
of
ball on
that.
the power stage.
Nothing
Yes.
obviously wrong, besides that it's clearly been stripped and presumably is dead. One of the many...
Oh my god, what's that? That thermal paste is not covering all of the die. Why? Like, this is the reason why I never tell people to just, oh yeah, put a rice grain amount of thermal paste on it will squish out. Like, that might work for CPUs. For graphics cards, you are going to pre-spread it. Otherwise, this is a bare die. It doesn't have an IHS. It will die if you don't cover all of it. That's just how it is.
unfortunate.
So, like, also this looks like it was actually, like, I mean, it was kind of covering it. You can see the outline of the die here, but it wasn't making proper contact in that area. So that might, that could actually be a dead GPU, damn. I've seen quite a lot of 980 Ti's where the GPU core is just dead. Because, like, the memory controller shorted or just, like, the GPU core itself died. They seem to die a lot because they're, like, very big cores that run very hot. I hope it's not... I really want to see... I just want to see, like, how they deal with it. I want to see that power stage blown up. That's the thing I want to see from this card. Just to see how they react to it.
Things about this card is that it came with a PCIe power pin that just fell off in shipping. We need to reattach that before we can...
Yeah, so what's up with that? How's that broken off? That's like very thick metal. How do you do that? Was it like adapted for like server use or something? Like it only came with the vapor chamber and nothing else on the heatsink. It's like, I have no idea. Like, because like usually these are bent, but like this has like upwards, like for like what, servers or something? That doesn't fit the stock heatsink. How did they cool this thing?
Try and power it on. Given the burn marks on this, I don't think it's the first time it fell off. Pin's back on. Now we just have to figure out which way these connectors are on. Because if we put our power supply cables on the wrong way, the card explodes or our power supply shuts down. Either way,
Yep.
don't want to do that. That's great.
If you don't like reverse polarity, if you plug in your cable the wrong way, like I've seen people plug in an EPS cable into a piece, like the EPS ones, like the one that your CPU uses. It's also an 8-pin, like it splits into 2 4s instead of a 6 and a 2. I've seen people force those into GPUs. They do not work. They have a different polarity. You are going to reverse polarity your graphics card if you plug that in. That kills the card. Full stop. It's dead. You cannot fix it afterwards. Like basically every single IC that's connected is gonna like probably die. If you reverse polarity your card, it's just dead. Like irreversibly dead. Same as like plugging in your PCI Express riser the wrong way. Like if you have like a like it's a thing that happens to miners because they have like this PCI Express 1X riser. If you plug that in the wrong way around, card dead. Like just dead. You get 12 volts into your data lines, dead. So yeah. Don't reverse polarity the card. That's an immediate death sentence.
Ground, yay. So the end of this that has a little clip is the side that has ground. We just need to make sure that goes on the right way. Oh God, this is really sketchy. Do not do this ever, any of it. We did it.
How thin are you that this one will turn on?
It doesn't
feel
even have the plastic piece. That's super janky. Who messed with this card? Just like the way it's been adapted for like non-90-degree connectors is weird in the first place. Like not having the plastic bit on it, just like bare metal to put your connector over. That's so janky. Who does that?
I feel like this one's hovering just above 0. Picked up the thermal camera. The reason that I want this is just to try and see if there's a short anywhere.
So, I mean, if there's a shot somewhere, you don't need a thermal camera. This is a 980 Ti.
Where it should just be.
I'm just like, I really want to see it at power stage because that's like what so many 980 Ti's have. If you like buy any random 980 Ti that has reference PCB, especially the EVGA ones, there's like a 80% chance, if not higher, that it has a dead power stage. Or I should be saying Diamos. I just want them to get the same thing because that's what people usually get. Like I've seen so many people repair that. I want to see that go at it. But seeing how weird this card is, how it only came like with the vapor chamber and then these super weird connectors and the bad thermal paste job, I have no idea what's going on with this card.
Be hotter than everything else, and then hopefully we can go from there. Oh wow, look at this though. It has all of the covers for the display outs. That's impressive. Wait, what?
No.
Oh my god, it works. Aww. I was gonna say, if it has all the covers, maybe it was like actually in a server. And they had like a server cooler on it and just chip it with like a heatsink, like a vapor chamber heatsink. But the card works. Oh man, I wanted to see a blown up MOSFET. Or Diamos. Oh, why does it just work? Now people are gonna buy that 980 Ti's and be disappointed because they won't be as lucky as that.
What the
No. No.
No way! Why? How did this turn?
Yeah, this has no business working. You are supposed to be dead. You
GTX
are a 980 Ti.
What? Why is this on?
980 Ti. 980 Ti, you have no business living. You are supposed to blow up. That's your one purpose. Why are you not? Why are you taking this from me? I wanted to see them troubleshoot a dead power stage.
I'm flabbergasted.
You should go buy a lot of tape.
Yeah, holy sh**. I just applied
Yeah,
thermal
no, you should not
paste.
be buying a lot of them. Don't they? Oh my god, they got so lucky. They got so lucky with their 980 Ti. Do not buy that 980 Ti's. Just like don't. So many dead ones. Like even the non-reference cards. Just like there's so many 980 Ti's with like dead cores. That's also something like you can't fix that.
I can't believe this is just working.
Wait,
This is
wait.
actually-
Are they running Time Spy on that card without a VRM heatsink? Maybe we're gonna get a dead power stage after all, because that's gonna like blow up. Like the VRM is very weak to begin with. Like how I've been explaining how EVGA's lackluster cooling made them blow up. They're running it without any cooling at all, and there's like, I mean, yeah, there's fans in the case, but like no direct airflow over the VRM at all. That's gonna run so hot. Like I remember testing on a 780, which has a very similar VRM. The 780 doesn't pull as much power as a 980 Ti, and I put a thermal probe on the VRM. It like within seconds of launching a test went into like 90-degree territory, and that was with a heatsink on it. Like they are running it without a heatsink on a core that pulls more power than that. They really are asking for that power stage here.
Crazy. That 980 Ti we got for $103. It ran. Score's a little bit low, like it's 1,700 points under the average, but there wasn't a cooler on it, so like pretty good. Yeah, let's see if HDMI just doesn't work. Is it working?
Oh, it is.
This card just works. Wow, yeah, this card's going for like 300.
I mean, I guess the power connector had like this broken off piece. I guess that qualifies as dead for someone who has absolutely no idea how to solder, but then again, it was like messed with. I don't know, the card's weird. Like they picked up like they have the 980 Ti, then they have the 1080, this one that was messed with, this one that just had a BIOS on it. Like they've been like getting super lucky or just like getting super weird cards.
$400 we got for 103. Hell yeah, call that one a big win. Oh, I don't want to take these connectors off. I'm gonna break the pin probably. Just gonna use a little bit of thermal adhesive and stick some mini heat sinks onto the memory chips that aren't going to be getting direct contact
the memory chips
to
don't
the
care.
heatsink.
The
rest I think is gonna be totally fine with just
chips don't produce that much heat. The
hitting
VRM
over
does.
here. I hope it still works.
Put them on the VRM too, please. Just
for cooling, I'm going to zip tie this fan to the card. Hell yeah.
They really are.
And now we just have to plug it in without breaking the pin off again. This pin is falling off, so I'm going to just use our PCIe to hold it in place. Can't believe this card is working. The only thing I can think of with this card is that it had the stock thermal compound on the GPU die, and it was just completely dried out. So maybe it was just booting up almost immediately over.
Like, I just want to say this here, because like overclockers do this a lot on modern cards, and that's fine. Like if you run like a 2080 Ti or 1600 XT or 3090, if you bench it a bit without any heat sinking on the VRM, that's fine, because they have like 16 power stages. This one has 8. That's like half as many. And if you go 780, it only has 6. And those are worse power stages than what you get on these newer cards. And they consume the same amount of power, if not more. Like 980 Ti's pull a lot of power if you lift the power limits. So you might be able to run VRMs naked now. You absolutely cannot do it on those old cards. Please don't. You're just asking it to blow up.
Heating, and they were just like, oh, it's dead. Well, the score did increase a fair bit by turning the fan up. Now, it isn't quite as fast as I want. It is getting up to about 83 degrees, and we're probably losing clocks because of that. Although, like, look at this thing. It's working. I can't believe it. This thing's sick. Big W. Here's our final card, and it's another one that clearly had work done on it. We have parts of it right.
1080 Ti's. Also, I've seen quite a lot of them come with like dead cores. Like they like to blow up their memory controller, and you see like on the outer edge of the core, like at some point the underfill is like dark. They like to like do that a lot apparently. I have a 1080 Ti that's dead. Yeah, dead memory controller on that 1080 Ti as well. It doesn't show like burnt anywhere, but like all the memory chips are like showing up as erroring, and one of the memory chips was shorted, and there was a blown up high side MOSFET in the memory VRM. So that's the memory chips and the memory controller got probably like 12 volts on my card. And like I've seen a lot of 1080 Ti's with dead cores. I'm kind of hoping theirs works, because that's also not the reference PCB.
Right here. Like, look, even just on the PCIe, all scratched up.
That
We're
was
gonna
probably from the loose screws in the box. Also, this one was disassembled, you can see here.
see what we can do though. Let's take it apart and we might have another water damage card. These thermal pads seem a little bit wet.
That's, again, thermal pads seem a bit wet because they have silicone oil coming out of them. That doesn't have to be water damage. If you see other evidence such as like stains or just a whole lot of liquid that's not very oily and a lot more liquid, then yeah, that's water damage. But if you just see a little bit of what looks like a bit of moisture near the thermal pads, that's fine.
It's not looking good, David. What's on the go here?
Oh, no, okay, that's water damage.
This is bad. This is really bad. Just look at the corrosion on this card right around here.
Yeah. So the fan connectors, and then that might be like 5-volt gate drive or something. It's an inductor. That might also be like PCIe input filtering, input inductor. Yeah, that's water damage.
Here. I feel like this card, one of two things is gonna happen. Either we clean it up and whatever's shorted by Shmoo up in here just kind of solves itself.
No, wait, this is the last card, and they showed that blown up PCB layer in the intro, so that this one's, yeah, oh boy.
Completely dead. It's probably completely dead. Oh, this is terrible. This thing's not surviving this, David. So, where do we even start with this? It's completely black.
Oh yeah, that capacitor ate shit.
And there's just, I don't even know what's all over it.
It's just like residue from like water.
Like, it looks like the PCB here, yeah.
Water corrosion. Pretty normal water corrosion. Quite heavy, but that's kind of what water corrosion looks like.
Is just completely lifted up. There's a pad here that's no longer really attached. Yeah, the PCB is kind of
yeah. If your solder mask comes off like that, that's like, so it's the top layer. It's not an internal, well, there might be an internal layer that's also shorted, but the top layer is also shorted. That's what it looks like when way too much power goes through your PCB. Like the solder mask just kind of like flakes off and you get to see bare copper. Since it's near the fan connector, I mean, that looks like a fairly big power plane. That might have been, I don't think it's the ground plane. That's probably that 12-volt power plane that got shorted to something. And it pulled a lot of current and sort of like, yeah, just kind of like burned away the solder mask, so it only like paint flakes sticks to it. So that, yeah, they have a major short circuit somewhere there. That's gonna probably be like a drilling job, like where you have to drill into the card to fix it.
exploded all through here. Some of it just came off as I touched it. That's a good sign. It's also really hairy. I'm not a huge fan of that. Let's see what else we can find on here. Yeah, so this resistor is just crumbling.
Yeah. So I've seen this sometimes. This happens sometimes. Like so that's one of their 5 milliohm input shunt resistors. This one's visibly burned, probably from that whole lot of current going into that short circuit we saw. So that resistor might actually be like cut off now. Like if you push enough current through that resistor, it's just going to like break internally. Just like not be connected anymore as if you remove it. So there won't be any more power going into that input.
I don't know what to say other than I don't know enough about electronics to really comment on this besides just complete
Well, that's what my video is for. Wink.
destruction of everything that's kind of around this area. We'll give it a clean at least, see what it exposes.
Yeah, just give it a clean, maybe. Like, if it was just the water shorting things. Like, as long as no further short circuits got created by that meltdown down there, actually just cleaning it might work.
What I find really interesting about this card is that it's water cooled and it appears to have water damage, but I don't think that the water damage is related in any way to the
Probably CPU AIO meltdown, or just like CPU water cooling leak, or just also liquid spill.
water cooler. Everything around the die and around this all looks fine. It just kind of seems like someone spilled their drink on this corner.
Yeah.
It's kind of
something like
hard
that.
to see through this camera here, but if I look in this, there's a literal hole in this PCB,
yeah.
and I don't think it's a via.
That's it does well. There's a trace like wait. So there's a trace like here, and there's a connection. No wait. No, that wouldn't make sense. That's the last connector then, so there's no connectors here. I mean, it kinda looks like a via, but it's a bit too big compared to the other vias we can see here. Then again, when the PCB burns, it doesn't really this is a fairly perfect round hole. It usually doesn't really happen like that. Usually it burns like along power plane. Like you can see here, there's a pretty cut off power plane part that's cut where it burned. Maybe it is a via and it just melted some solder mask around it, so it looks bigger. I don't know. It could be a via. I wouldn't count it out, but it's inconclusive.
Or it might have been at one point, but it's much more than a via at this point. It's a almost resistor-sized hole that just kind of goes through a couple layers. It looks like a cap.
If those layers were not supposed to be connected before, you have a drill job there.
Exploded and corroded everything, but there's no caps around here that exploded. It's
So what's that? No, that doesn't look like there was something supposed to be there. Okay, that's good.
just something very bad got on this. It stayed on it for quite a while. Oh yeah, that just came right off.
Oh, yeah. No,
I think we just chuck this in the PC, see if it does anything. There's no coming back
with
from
that
this, I
missing
don't
component,
think.
well, if it's just the fan controller, if this is actually just the fan controller, nothing else important is in the way, yeah, it's probably gonna work. Unless there's a short circuit somewhere.
Only way to save this card that I can think of is just full zombie it. Just pretty much everything from here, never use it again. Get an external.
Well, yes, but actually no. So you can e-power cards that have short circuits in their vCore VRM. So if the vCore VRM is damaged beyond repair, then you can e-power them. What they have is potentially a pretty bad short circuit outside of their vCore VRM that's attached to their 12-volt power plane. That you can theoretically fix by e-powering the card if you just manage to disconnect all the 12-volt inputs and not use them anymore, which is quite difficult since you have to rewire the power input measuring stuff and also make sure not only vCore is taking 12-volt power, everything else on the card is taking 12-volt power too. You have to make sure that power gets to all of those places without connecting anything to the short circuit, which is quite hard. And then again, that their VRMs are not damaged in any way. It's just that fan controller bit. So you can fix it by e-powering it. It's just very, very hard. What I would do is I would just drill the short circuit. You know how I did on the R9290X, the first one. I would do that, because that way you don't have to destroy your perfectly good VRM. And just overall you have to do less things to, you still have to drill into the car, which is a fairly major thing that it's also probably outside the expertise of what Linus Tech Tips doing there, considering the video is about to end. Yeah, that's what I would do. I would actually drill the card, not e-power it.
12-volt power supply for this and hook it up right to the VRMs or something. We might as well try the card, but this thing's so mangled, I don't even think it's worth the time to put that cooler back on. I'm just gonna hold this Intel stock heatsink up to the die. I have been wrong before, but nothing. Yeah, I don't think it's worth looking more into this card. It's mangled. This one's an L.
I mean, at least it doesn't trip over short circuit protection. So they might not have, well, they might have a short circuit. Maybe the shunt resistor is just completely burned through and no longer connects to anything. Then they could potentially have a short circuit there and it's just not receiving any power to burn. Or they don't have a short circuit and that missing capacitor, damage to the PCB, severed something important and they're missing an enable signal or something. But well, it's a fixable card, if you ask me. It's not an easy fix, considering that there's burn damage on the card, but it is a fixable one, if you ask me.
$400 for this, David.
Buy a Steam Deck though.
Yeah, that's bad. Aside from what we just tried with these GPUs, there are a couple more methods to try and bring them back from the dead. Like for
Please
instance,
don't
our
bring up
RX 580 here, we were able to rescue from a bad BIOS by just getting lucky and there being a switch. But on most cards, you don't have dual BIOS. To try and fix those, you can use one of these guys right here, a BIOS flasher. And you can pick
Those
these
are very
up on
useful. I have
AliExpress
one.
for
Never
under
used it, though.
$5. With this, you can flash the BIOS on your card without even needing to power the GPU on. The best
those are
resource I
very good.
found for this is
You
a
can
video.
also use those to, like, you know, one of these scam cards. You can turn them back into the actual cards that they were. Because I also have one of those, and I still have to do that to that card. Just never got to it. Yeah, those BIOS flashers are very useful.
From DefDog that goes over the operation in excruciating detail. If all else fails, there's also the good old oven trick.
No. For 24 minutes and 50 seconds, you did it right. But now you've brought up ovens, heat guns, and flamethrowers. I literally just published a video about why it's a bad idea, and I know it's really easy to fall for it. I myself have fallen for it. Just look at my most viewed video. I do mention heat gunning things, which I kind of regret. I wish I could edit that out in retrospect, but now I can't without deleting the video, which is not just my most successful video, but it's also linked in like RepairWiki or something, and then that link's gonna break and not gonna lead anywhere, and people will lose access to the actual useful part of that video. But yeah. Don't heat gun. Don't oven any. Like, oven is worse because oven also heats up all your capacitors. With a heat gun, you can kind of avoid that. Capacitors hate heat. They die very quickly. Yeah, I mean, there's only one scenario where I would say, sure, go ahead, heat gun it or oven it or whatever. If you have a card that you would literally just throw away into the garbage otherwise, like if you would literally just throw it away otherwise, sure, go ahead, try it. It might work. If you're gonna do anything else, if you're gonna sell it on eBay or give it to someone else who knows what they're doing, or just put it away for later, don't heat gun it. You're just gonna break the card more. It's not gonna do anything good, and it has a lot of potential to do bad. Don't. Please don't. Like, actually, this is kind of surprising hearing from Linus Tech Tips, because they did make a video about ovening things first, and then Louis Rossmann got very salty about that, called them out, and then Linus actually flew to Louis Rossmann into his shop where he showed how to do it properly. So now seeing them go back to it and recommending it is kind of weird. Are they at least giving a disclaimer of like, this is not a proper fix and you should only do it if you were throwing the card away or something? Like, maybe they
Linus
can redeem
did make a
themselves.
video on this a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But maybe don't watch that. Like, half the video is him just
Yeah,
cleaning
don't
a
watch it.
toaster up. Maybe just read this article.
Don't watch it because it's a bad idea. Are they actually not
by
mentioning
iFixit.
Louis
Basically,
Rossmann?
by heating your GPU to around 200 degrees Celsius, if a solder joint is cracked, it might expand just enough that the connection
Yeah,
gets...
but if a solder joint is cracked, that's a big if. I mean, it is a more common issue, but it's far from the most common.
well, connected again. I have heard
The most common issue, if you ask me, is dead memory,
people describe this as reflowing the solder, but realistically,
which is a lie. You don't get hot enough to reflow anything.
the ovens are not getting hot enough.
Yeah.
And if they did,
Alex is
it'll be
right.
a really bad time because all the flux is gone.
And all the capacitors would explode. 200 degrees, your capacitors explode, full stop.
This is pretty much just a Hail Mary though. And even if it does fix your GPU, it's probably gonna last a month or two. So
At least they say it's not a permanent thing, but I kind of would have wished, like, in an ideal world, they wouldn't have mentioned it at all, or only mentioned it as don't do it. But I would have liked a bit more of a, this is not a proper fix disclaimer, only do it if you would literally only, like, throw the card away. Because most of the time, it doesn't do anything good, but it does do something bad. And if you want to have your card working again, this is not in your interest to do.
should you buy a for parts GPU from eBay and try and fix it? No. I think
No. Unless you know how to do it. No.
I think you agree, David. Absolutely not. This was fun. Like, I enjoyed looking at how just mangled this card is that I paid $400 for. I wouldn't
$400 for that 1080 Ti. Damn. Now I know why LTT ended up with them, because no one else wanted to buy it at that price.
recommend it. Sure, you still can get lucky, like with our 580 or 980 Ti, but
that 980 Ti I still don't believe works. That was so lucky. That 980 Ti should be dead.
multiple of these already had serious attempts at repair done to them. If you're looking at less powerful cards, then maybe you can find one, and it can be fun. It's not too expensive, but given the current price of GPUs, there's a lot of incentive for repair shops to try and fix these and sell them as working cards. On top of that, even if you have a full-blown board repair level shop, like, you might just not be able to get some of the stuff. If something breaks like a MOSFET, you can get it.
I mean, you can, like, for MacBooks, yeah, there's some certain chips that Apple won't sell to you, but for graphics cards, unless you want to buy a GPU chip, you can get everything
from DigiKey and replace it. But
yeah, like, you can get a MOSFET.
Memory or
you can get memory chips.
And a lot of other special components.
No. You can buy memory chips. Well, what is he talking about? You can buy memory chips. You can even buy them like reballed, so you don't even have to like do the reballing thing. Like, they come with solder balls attached. You only have to remove the old chip, clean the solder pads, and then plop the new one on, like soldered on. You can buy memory chips. What's he talking about? You can do that. And then, like, what other special components are there? Like, no, you can buy everything. Like, the PCBs are made out of standardized components. You can buy all that. Like, yeah. Like, maybe the GPU, like, you shouldn't be buying GPU chips anyway. If the core is dead, you might as well buy a new GPU. It's not really worth the hassle. Like, there's some people who are really, really good at what they're doing, like Chris Fix Germany, for example. He's really good at what he does, and he does swap out cores. But people like that don't watch this video, because they already know what they're doing. Anyone else shouldn't be buying GPU cores. And then everything else you can buy. I don't know, you can buy everything else. It's GPUs, it's not a MacBook, it's not proprietary, it's standard components from like Intersil, IR, on semiconductor, like all that stuff, Micron, Samsung for memory chips. Yeah.
You just can't buy them, and it sucks. If someone out there knows how to get GDDR6, let me know.
GDDR6?
No. So huge thank.
Yeah, Taobao. Buy them from Taobao. Like, from China. Just get your... I can't, like, give you a link for that, but you can buy a GDDR6. You can also buy GDDR6X. Like, just ask Tech Cemetery, I guess. He's gonna have enough money for a Patreon subscription to him, and just ask him directly on his Discord.
Thanks to Origin PC for sponsoring this video.
Okay, this is sponsor part. So, video's over now. Okay, they've mostly done it right. There's like nothing that I would say is dangerously wrong. There's some things where they got way too lucky for that, like running the 980 Ti without a heatsink and not having it blow up. Yeah, it's all right. They didn't really go in depth, but like, I mean, I don't expect that really from them. Like Alex is the like hardware guy, but I mean, he does a lot more than just PC hardware. He does a lot of other stuff. So it's not that I'm expecting like in-depth board level repair stuff. You just go to Louis Rossmann for that, or like your Tech Cemetery or Chris Fix, and who else exists for that. So yeah, I like the video. They mostly did things right, like some smaller things, which is what I just talked about in this probably hour-long video by now. Yeah. I like this video. It's all right. Just like a couple pieces of advice here and there. And yeah, now just please do like proper overclocking content. Just they've been doing some extreme overclocking content, and it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. So, I mean, I know Alex is on like some extreme overclocking discords. Maybe he's also on some GPU repair discords. If somehow my video ends up on one of his discords and he sees it, yeah, I'm a fan of your stuff. I like what you're doing. If you see this advice video somehow, then thank you for listening to it, I guess. And I would love to see more extreme overclocking videos from you. Like really, really try this time, and not just like really go all in. Anyway, yeah, I've been meaning to end the video like 2 minutes ago. Yeah, thank you all for watching. This was a very long video, and I hope you at least enjoyed this, learned something maybe. I just gotta go chuckle, maybe. Anyway, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, goodbye.